Hey bestie, if you are feeling overwhelmed by that constant juggle of work, family, life, and that little voice in the back of your head telling you to take care of yourself, you've come to the right place. I'm Alanis, your habit tracking BFF, and you are listening to Down the Habit Hole. My mission is to help women just like you master their chaos through the power of habits. So go ahead, grab a little drinky drink, and listen up as we dive down the habit hole together and talk through productivity, burnout, decision fatigue, and everything in between. Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to a new week and a new episode of Down the Habit Hole. If you are feeling like you are stuck in a time warp, just working your butt off all day long, but never seem to get anything done, bestie, you are not alone. It happens to the best of us because we all have these sneaky little time vampires sucking the life and time out of our day. But fear not, because today is your lucky day. We're going to talk about slaying those time suckers and taking back control of your schedule. Listen, I get it. Between work, family, that side hustle that I know you are crushing, and let's be honest, probably some serious Insta scrolling, there just never seems to be enough time. But here's the thing, a lot of the time, we are the ones that are letting those precious minutes slip away with bad habits. So today we're going to call those guys out and replace them with some serious money-making moves. So get ready to feel like a time management master. I'm here to expose the top 7.5 habits, and then we can brainstorm some strategies to knock it off and have you feeling like the ultimate #girl boss by the time we go our separate ways today. All right, so let's get into it. Again, this is the top 7.5 bad habits that are draining your time and energy. Number 1, we are starting off strong, and that is that you are getting caught in a multitasking mania. Let me be the first person to tell you that multitasking is not a flex, and if you ask me, we spent far too long trying to pretend that it is. I know that juggling multiple things at once seems productive on the surface, but it actually leads to errors, wasted time trying to constantly switch your focus, and inevitably, you will start to feel overwhelmed. What I like to do, and I've mentioned this before, is use the Pomodoro technique. Pick one task and set a timer for 25 minutes to work on this specific task for the full 25 minutes. And then take a 5-minute break to stretch your legs, take a potty break, step outside, and then when you're ready, you can either go back to that task if it still needs attention, or otherwise, if you were able to check that box or you just need a change in scenery. Identify the next task that you need to tackle for the following 25-minute cycle. This will keep you focused on one thing at a time, especially when you remove any distractions and put that dang cell phone on Do Not Disturb. Which brings me to number 2 on my list of the top 7.5 habits that are wasting your time. And I'm saying it again for emphasis, put that dang cell phone of yours on Do Not Disturb. Constant text message and app notifications can and will disrupt your focus and create a constant state of distraction. If you're picking up your phone every 5 minutes to respond to a text or check the comments on your latest Instagram post, it pulls you away from the task at hand, takes you out of that flow state, and on top of that, I know that you are probably just like me in that the second that you tap on that little Instagram app, you think you have the best of intentions to just respond to a DM or a comment, but the next thing you know, you've been scrolling Instagram Reels for 20 minutes. That is what I like to call the scroll hole. And that is number 3, my friends. Endless scrolling through your social media feeds is a major time drain, and it absolutely eats away at your productivity. And if I'm being honest with you, your creativity as well. Especially if you're in the content creator space, please start your days creating before you even think about consuming any content. So as to avoid falling into the comparison trap, which is admittedly inarguably worse than the scroll hole. Apple has a feature, and honestly, maybe Android does too, I'm not sure, sorry. But Apple has a feature that I found to be super helpful where you can actually turn your phone into grayscale mode, and at the risk of sounding too simplistic here, it does literally turn your entire phone black and white, which effectively makes it much less appealing to stare at for hours on end when there's not a ton of colors popping out at you. Seriously, try it. It works. Moving on to number 4 on my top 7.5 habits that are wasting your time, let's talk about the never-ending email abyss. I don't know if this is just a me thing, but sometimes when I'm consciously making an effort to not check my social media notifications, I'll naturally wander over to my emails. And I know what you're thinking, how could checking your emails be a bad thing? But hear me out, not only does constantly checking your emails every time a notification comes through, again, disrupt your focus and dampen your flow, but it also will almost without fail lead to adding new things onto your bottomless to-do list and effectively lead you to work reactively instead of focusing on the money-making, needle-moving, setting priorities. My suggestion is to schedule 10 minutes in a few times a day to check and respond to emails. And while you're at it, stop saying yes to requests that don't align with your current and endgame goals. Save your energy for the things that matter to you, which is the perfect segue into number 5, which is to stop saying yes when what you really mean is no. Feeling obligated to say yes to every single thing that's asked of you will lead you to filling up your schedule with a ton of things that you literally could not care less about. Y'all already know what I'm going to say here. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So learn to politely decline commitments that don't align with your priorities. I know it's easier said than done, so if you need some practice, I find it best to either not respond right away, or if I'm really being put on the spot, I'll ask if I can have a few days to think on it. This way, you'll have some time to really consider whether whatever the opportunity is really the right fit for you. And while you're saying no to things, let's really go there and talk about meetings. One thing about me is that I will never hate anything about work more than I hate a meeting that could have been an email. An email that you're not going to open and respond to right away, though. I am, if you couldn't tell, a big proponent of using my time effectively and efficiently, and there is nothing worse to me than an unproductive or poorly run meeting. In fact, I once started a new job where in my very first week of working in the department, I attended 9 pre-scheduled meetings, 8 of which were scheduled department check-ins, just to see if anyone needs anything. I know you can't see me right now, but I'm physically air quoting because that's literally what these meetings were for. And spoiler alert, nobody literally ever needed anything because it was a small department made up of less than 10 people who all worked in the same 20 by 20 foot office space. And honestly, that's probably a generous estimate of what that space was. And the other meeting was a monthly department meeting, which was not only just as unproductive, but some of the other ladies in this medical office that I worked in ended up going on a random tangent about strippers and sex swings. So anyway, long story short, among other reasons, that was my first and last week at that job. I just knew I had to get out of there. Anywho, now that I've gone off on my own tangent, the moral of the story is that if a meeting really, truly cannot be just an email, keep them short, make sure there's a planned agenda ahead of time, and be respectful of your time, even if others are not. All right. I know you are dying to know. So last but not least, let's get into 7 and 7.5, which are related but not inherently the same thing. And that is procrastination and perfectionism. I opted to put these two together because I am the queen of getting stuck in both, and usually one because of the other. I find that I get so stuck in perfecting my content specifically that I start to procrastinate doing it at all because I spiral myself into thinking that I'll never get it just right, so I might as well just not do it at all. This is when I really start pulling out the Pomodoro technique, which, as a reminder, is those 25 minutes on, 5 minute off cycles. This helps me to shift my focus so that if something is just not working for me or I'm spending too much time on it, I can pull myself out of it and come back to it later in an effort to hopefully give myself a fresh perspective next time I visit it. And if nothing else, at least I can put my time and energy into something more productive than spinning my wheels on the same 1 or 2 pieces of content. I'm also a big fan of the concept that done is better than perfect, but I think it's a fine line because obviously you don't want to keep posting trash content just for the sake of it. So keep yourself out of the perfectionism rabbit hole by establishing some of these habit holes. Oh, that was rough. Sorry. To make it up to you, I'm going to recap those 7.5 habits, and then I'll give you some bonus tips that I know will help you to reclaim your own time and give you back the energy to do all the things you love. So once again, the 7.5 habits that are wasting your time and energy are: number 1, multitasking or trying to do too many things at once. 2 is notification overload. 3, you keep getting trapped in the scroll hole. 4 is the bottomless email abyss. Number 5 is saying yes when what you really mean is no. 6 is all of those meetings that could have been emails. 7 is perfectionism, which brings us to 7.5, which is procrastination. And then, as promised, some bonus money-making moves that you can start using today. First and foremost, I cannot stress enough how much of a game changer it is to batch similar tasks. There's many ways to do this, but personally, the schedule that I try to follow is that Mondays are an admin day, Tuesdays are for filming and recording content, content, Wednesdays are for editing, Thursdays are for developing any other content that's not video or audio related. And then my Fridays are actually usually dedicated to taking care of things around the house, whether it be catching up on laundry, doing a deep clean, whatever's needed. This helps me stay focused and have a game plan as I go into each day, and again, helps avoid context switching. Plus, as an added bonus, it also allows me the opportunity to only have to wash my hair once a week, and that's a win in my book. Next is that I know that putting your phone on Do Not Disturb sometimes makes people anxious because of FOMO or being worried you'll miss someone or something important, or I don't know, whatever it is that makes you nervous. So my tip for you is that Apple, at least, sorry again, Android friends. I'm assuming Android has a similar function though. But anyway, Apple will let you customize your Do Not Disturb, or they actually call it focus modes, to allow certain notifications to come through. So if you're really concerned about missing a text from your partner or a kid or whomever, you do have the option to allow these notifications through. However, I would encourage you to make a clear ask of them to not take advantage of this privilege. I've mentioned before in a previous episode that my husband Bob and I always have our phones on Do Not Disturb, but we do allow each other's text messages to come through, with the expectation that if we have something that's clearly not urgent, we'll send it via a different method, usually Facebook Messenger, which, as a sidebar, is also the place where all the funny Instagram reels I want him to watch go to die. But in all seriousness, I can't think of a single notification that I've ever gotten on my phone that it was imperative that I see immediately. And I'm guessing that if you really think about it, you'll realize that the same goes for you. And one more tip for you, don't underestimate some of the really great apps that are out there these days to help you get your life together and get shit done. A lot of times for pretty cheap or even free. Some of my favorites are Notion for all things habit tracking and content planning, Timetree for schedule keeping, Pomodoro Focus Timer for, well, focusing, the Motion app for helping you to prioritize, and I even use the more simple apps like the built-in Notes app for in-the-moment notes or content ideas that I want to revisit at some point, and the Reminders app to help remind me to do the things that I do less frequently, like weekly or monthly, instead of on a daily basis. Whew. All right, y'all. I know we covered a lot today, and honestly, I think this is my favorite episode yet. So please let me know what you think. On Apple Podcasts, yikes, the Android people must really hate me by now. But a written review goes a really long way for podcasts like this one because it helps for my show to be recommended to other millennial women just like us who might need to hear these things too. So if you have a minute or two to leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it, and we'll be besties forever. Not that we're not already. Or you can just leave a 5-star review, and as always, you can slide into my DMs as well. At Down the Habit Hole Pod will be linked in the show notes below. Remember that you have the ability to be the CEO of your own time. And if no one's told you lately, your gifts have the power to change the world. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Down the Habit Hole with me, Alanis Van Duzer. Remember, you're not alone in this journey to balancing your chaos. Join me over on Instagram at Down the Habit Hole Pod, and don't be shy, slide into my DMs. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode, answer your burning questions, or even just have a little chat. Plus, if you share this episode on your Instagram story and tag me at Down the Habit Hole Pod, I'll be picking one lucky listener each week to win Starbucks on me. Until next time, friend, may your coffee be strong and your to-do list be short.